I think I'll start maybe if we start basically from philosophy, let's call it a philosophy of technology, because maybe that's where we also have challenges. And there are two extremes. We've got people who would say, technophilia, let's call it. They love technology and they're like, technology is going to solve all our problems of the world, etc. And we will, whatever is new, we want to take it on and we are going to try it and see what happens. And of course, the other extreme is technophobia, where we are just kind of like, I don't want anything. If it's new, if it's coming from a scientist, prove it to me. Just show me that it actually works or it's happening. And these things happen, I think, across our society on many things. I think when we started this GMO conversation, one of the things we were saying, it sounded so similar to the COVID vaccine conversation. Very, very similar, underlying things that we're coming from, right? So those things still drive us a lot. And I think sometimes if we don't address that core issue, we start getting, into challenges. And so in attempt to drive those, I think it's true, both have their strengths and weaknesses, because it is true, technology has solved very many issues for us over history. I remember my late grandmother on my paternal side. For as long as I knew her, she had like 4 teeth. Okay, that's all she had. And the poor woman didn't even have a dentist. Okay, so I just even, tremble at the thought of how she lost the other teeth. It must have been just traumatic pain and so on. But obviously, neither did she have a toothbrush. Okay, she was of a stick and everything. And for us, we are kind of born with toothbrushes. We brush our teeth twice a day, and we don't even think about it. And for a long time, some of us who are old enough will remember, we used to use different brands used to tell us they have fluoride. And we'd be like, yeah, it's got fluoride. It's good for you. So we would use it. But later we came up to and said, look, fluoride, not a very good idea, okay? So we removed the fluoride from it. But I presume we're all still brushing our teeth regularly to keep healthy. So there is a sense in it historically, and I don't know what happens with particular issues, and call it GMOs or BT crops, biotechnology crops, has become a kind of a very hot point. But perhaps it is reflecting other issues in society, because we are wary of technology, we are wary of science. Where is this thing going? We hear what they're doing with genetics. But historically, we have gone through these phases. We try new technology, new things come, they help us, we take those benefits, and then we learn about them. And unfortunately, it takes time, and sometimes it hasn't always been good. Some really bad mistakes have been made in the past, but it is the nature of the world. That's how we need to see it growing. Related to that then comes to the safety issue. Because when we talk about safety, I think at some level, there are two questions. Some people are asking, is it safe? All right, is it safe to eat? But actually what other people are asking, is it unsafe? That's actually the question. So some people are saying, is it safe? Others are saying, is it unsafe? And I think, is it safe is easier to answer. Like we said, we've kind of eaten these, and like we said, they've been in the market, say 30 years, 20-something years. So people can say it is safe. And I think that's what part of the science, like the reports we've had are saying it is safe, it's fine to eat. But is it unsafe? That's a question nobody can answer, all right? Because we don't really know whether it's related to the biodiversity issues or what it's going to do to us, what it's going to do to our children or our grandchildren as it grows. We really, I don't think anybody can answer that question fully. But I think it's also now becomes your approach to technology. Are you going to wait until things are proven 100% unsafe? And then you ask yourself, what are those things that are 100% unsafe that we are not engaging with in our daily life? On the safety issue as well, and I think it was mentioned there about the seed sovereignty and the reduced use. That also we need to relate it to safety. Because what has happened with all these, from the Cartagena protocol and all these safety requirements, the testing requirements are so high, they are so expensive that only a few people can afford to do it. In fact, it is also the reason that it is not spread across many crops. So because you've made it very expensive to prove the safety, it therefore means even if Calro or our university here wants to do some, the testing cost is just so high that they can never do it. So maybe there's a trade-off there that we need to look at about the safety. And I think one of the issues we have in many of the countries, I know we are doing it, we consider it in our business currently in agricultural inputs, is how many times do we need to test safety? If safety, for instance, has been tested in the US, Europe, Pakistan, South Africa, Kenya, do we need to test it again in Burundi, Uganda, Cameroon? You need it to be tested across enough variety, but not everybody needs to test it, right? We can just say, yeah, we kind of approve some tests, just like we are saying now with our toothpaste. We are not really testing it for, I don't know whether there's an organization here testing whether the toothpaste is still safe for us. We kind of believe what has been used globally and has been shown that it's actually quite easy to test, right? So that's good. I think the other issue I wanted to go back to is what Fadel mentioned about the real challenge we have of hunger, and now related to, say, on the ground in our market, is one of the challenges we are going to have, whether or not we do bring in the GMO, is agricultural husbandry in Kenya, in Africa, is poor. So in fact, my own belief is that it would only be the large commercial farmers who would be able to take this up effectively, cost effectively, because again, like we said, the seeds are not cheap. So at a basic level, we really have some basics to deal with. And I know like Agra has a huge project on seed and making sure seed is available, good quality seed. But you'll be surprised. We were doing a project recently on bean seeds, and there are no bean seeds in Kenya. Actually, they are very hard to find bean seeds. The university has done some work on them, but they're not really available. And because of that, believe it or not, Kenya imports 50% of its bean consumption from the regional countries. Because again, we are using our old seed. You want to use new seed. You want to use breeder seed to get your productivity. So even when we talk about like maize, yes, you can reuse your katumani or whatever seed, you can reuse that seed to grow, but you never get the same harvest again, because it's hybrid seed. So that is a big challenge for us. So getting that food and it's in that sense, it's not going to be a magic bullet. It's not going to solve all our food challenges, but at least we can get food closer to us. We talked about the regional issues. I know in Kenya, the recent conversation has been about maize from Zambia. And now we are seeing even Zambia doesn't want to give us maize because they're saying they don't have enough. So, but can we get, even if we don't get maize food in Kenya, can we get food in Africa at least? Where we can crossbreed and get closer to each other. So that's still going to be a challenge for us. I think, again, one of the other challenges I see, and it's related to the technology and technophobia, is globalization. And the challenges globalization is bringing us. I think Fadel mentioned them, like the food, and we talked about, in Kenya, we talk about like Brazilian eggs and Brazilian chicken. There was a time we were kind of flooded with them. The reason they're cheap is because they have cheap inputs. And if they're using this technology and so on and getting cheaper inputs, they will get cheaper food, and then we will have challenges getting it. But there is a social dimension about the cost of food for our people. Probably most everybody here on this chat or this webinar is not in a food insecure position, where maybe food cost is 10% of their cost when they don't go to eat at the Intercontinental or wherever, So food cost is not a big thing for them. But for some people in Africa, it's a real social issue that we need to deal with, about how do we get food cost down. But having said that, I think it's to say we also come to this with some level of, I think they call it epistemic humility, in the sense of like, we don't know. There's a sense in which we are trying these things. We are trying technology. And we, like I said, we have issues today that we need to deal with. When I talk about the global issues, right now, for instance, one of the big issues we have for tomatoes in Kenya is a bug called Tuta absoluta. And if you know that the Tuta absoluta is this moth, which came from South America. Okay, but somehow it's devastating tomatoes in Kirinyaga and Eldoret. You know, it came all that way somehow. And it's a globalized world. So these things are going to move. So these challenges, and we are going to have to find science to deal with these challenges as the challenges come. And what am I saying about that? That standing still, we can't stand still and assume that we're on a level playing field. The world is changing. COVID was probably our biggest example. If we take the best narrative about it, I take the easiest one, that it came from bats somehow and transmuted into humans, others are going to come. You know, we're going to get other viruses, other challenges, and we are going to have to need science to deal with these issues as we go along. So I think that's one of the challenges. For Africa, I think for us on the ground, how we're going to be able to roll it out is going to be challenging, because again, although 90% of scientists, I think, kind of global figures, they say 90% of scientists have no problems with it. You find maybe 30, 40% of the, say, the general population think, you know, they're wary about or are confident about GMOs. Everybody else is wary about it. So even that, because even if I'm a farmer, if I plant it, who's going to buy it? I need to go. So we have to go through all those steps again to be sure that people are confident enough so that they're going to be able to buy it and move forward. But I think whatever our challenge is today, we are going to need science. We are going to need to change some practices. We're going to need to even maybe reduce our consumption or do some things different to be able to move forward for the world. So that's my bit there. I think, have I done my 10 minutes? I think so.